Hey, Jesus Deakin here. Today we visit Tutbury Castle, overlooking the River Dow to the beautiful Derbyshire hills. The castle was first built in 1069 and became known as one of the castle prisons that Queen Mary of Scots was held. The castle was visited by quite a few royals until its decline in 1647 to 1648. The original entrance to the castle was probably up the slope between the two outer baileys. There is no evidence today that these ever had a stone wall. Even a plan of the 16th century shows a wooden palisade with an outer gatehouse, which may have been of stone. This was probably at the top of the slope, just above the modern ticket office. The steep slopes added to the castle's defence. Situated in the heart of England, Tutbury Castle sits on a wooded slope, overlooking the winding River Dow, with spectacular views across the plain of the Dove to the beautiful Derbyshire hills. Its commanding view and natural defence position makes this an obvious site for a castle. Although it has been called John of Gaunt's Gate in modern times, the gatehouse was built by Thomas, 2nd Earl of Lancaster in 1313 to 1314. The stone was quarried a few miles away at Winds Hill. The building had large windows in the rooms on the upper floor, designed for comfort, but there are slits for defence on the ground floor. Traces of a fireplace are still visible in one of the downstairs guard rooms. The gatehouse was extended outwards in the 1400s. The two stone projecting arms probably supported a wooden fighting platform above the gate. This was originally the inner gatehouse. The outer gatehouse was near the top of the slope by the ticket office. Inside the gatehouse to the left was the receiver's lodging. This is first recorded as early as 1326. And the same building may have still been there in 1585. At that point it was a two-storey timber building containing a hall, kitchen and buttery, with two chambers over the buttery. At the end of the hall was a further two rooms on each storey. This was the lodging of the receiver of the honour of Tutbury. The honour was the lordship of Tutbury, which covered a large part of East Staffordshire as well as much of Derbyshire, and the receiver was an important official in charge of accounting for all the income which came from the honour. The site has been occupied since the Stone Age. The castle was first recorded in 1071 as one of the new castle built to stamp the authority of the Norman conquerors across the Midlands. Since then, the castle has played an important part in English history on many occasions, in warfare and in peace. The castle is best known as one of the prisons of Mary Queen of Scots, who was held here on 4 occasions. It was here she became involved in the plot that ultimately led to a bloody execution at Fotheringhay. The castle was the seat of the De Fers family, and later the Earls and Dukes of Lancaster. Tutbury was also one of the great centres of power in medieval England. It was visited by many English kings and home to the great John of Gaunt, 2nd Duke of Lancaster, who has established a great annual feast. This tradition lasted for hundreds of years. There has been human activity at Tutbury Castle for over 10,000 years, but it was developed as a castle around 1069. It's one of a line of castles built to establish Norman control across the Midlands. The castle is best known as one of the prisons of Mary Queen of Scots, who was held here on 4 occasions. Initially, she was housed in the royal apartments in the South Tower, but later in an old timber frame building between the North Tower and the South Tower. Seats of the first Earl of Derby and later Earls and Dukes of Lancaster, Tutbury was also one of the greatest centres of power in medieval England. The castle was visited by many English kings and was home to the great John of Gaunt, 2nd Duke of Lancaster. It also had a bloodier side, as its strategic location meant that it was involved in one war after another. The castle was besieged, destroyed and rebuilt several times. It was destroyed for the last time in 1647 to 1648 by Act of Parliament after holding out for King Charles I in the Civil War. The destruction was incomplete, leaving the dramatic ruins that we see today, and the castle has never been fully abandoned. The house was partially restored after the Civil War, and the castle was a working farm until 1952. It also had a bloodier side. It was besieged, destroyed and rebuilt several times. It was destroyed for the last time by the Act of Parliament in 1647 to 1648, after holding out for Charles I in the Civil War. The destruction was incomplete, leaving the dramatic ruins that we see today, and the castle has never been completely abandoned. The North Tower was built between 1457 and 1460. The castle was held at the time by Margaret of Anjou, wife of Henry VI, and this building was referred to in the late 1500s as Queen Margaret's Tower. Margaret visited Tutbury in 1456, and it is likely that she ordered the building of the North Tower then, to provide more accommodation of a suitable standard for royalty. The tower had 4 stories, including 3 residential chambers with large windows and a vaulted cellar below. This is now fitted out as a medieval torture chamber. A spiral staircase of 67 steps leads to the upper chambers and then to a turret which led onto the roof of the top floor. Part of a doorway onto the ramparts survive, which show the original height of the castle walls. The healing herbary for us was important in any great house, both in the Middle Ages and the Tudor period. Herbs had many uses, including flavourings for food and providing scent for perfumes and cosmetics. They also had an important role in medicine. Herbal medicines were also known in Roman and Anglo-Saxon times, and the Norman conquest brought stronger links between monastic orders in England and on the continent, such as the Benedictine Priory established at Tutbury by Henry de Furs. The monastic orders had an important role in the transmission of medical knowledge, including knowledge of Arab medicine, brought back from the Crusades and from the cultural melting pots of Sicily and Spain. As a result, medieval herbaries included imported herbs as well as native varieties. The South Tower was begun in 1442 and completed by around 1450. The tower was designed for comfort rather than defence, with large windows and ornamented fireplaces on the upper floor. The upper floor formed a suite of rooms with a large outer chamber, a small inner chamber and a garderobe or lavatory, emptying outside the main wall. The doorway at the top was added long after the castle was ruined and is not part of the original building. The South Tower became the main residence, and Mary Queen of Scots was housed there during her first imprisonment at Tutbury in 1569. The apartments would have been luxurious by the standards of the day, and a sense of luxury is reinforced by the large windows and the ornate fireplaces in both chambers. There would have been wooden buildings or galleries extended from the front of each bay, and there were access to this on the upper level from the same staircase that led to the upper chambers. Since 2000, the castle has taken on new life, welcoming thousands of visitors every year, with historical reenactment, archaeological excavation, an authentic Tudor garden and medieval herbery, the haunted Great Hall and King's Bedroom, and of course the tea room. The castle has been excavated in the past, but these excavations have never been properly published. The research project, including a survey of all the previous archaeological work, combined with 4 seasons of new excavations between 2004 and 2007. Between them, these revealed a Roman kiln, traces of the earth ramparts of the first Norman castle, with a deep ditch behind, a medieval tower and surrounding wall on top of the motte, with a paved area in between the chapel which is visible in the centre of the inner bailey, and traces of the building which housed Mary Queen of Scots in 1585. In addition to structures, they have individual finds from the Stone Age down to modern times. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II visited the castle in 1957 and again in 1982. On her first visit, both the Queen and His Royal Highness Prince Philip planted trees to commemorate their visit. The main residence of the castle seems always to have been at the southern end, at least for the early 14th century. At that time there was a great hall and great chamber, together with kitchens, pantries and butteries. A new range was built in the same area, up against the curtain wall in the late 15th century. This was replaced again in the 1630s, with a new red brick house. At this point it seemed that the castle had lost its military function, so large windows were cut through the castle wall, including those which survive in the current house, and 3 further sets of windows plus a door between the house and the south tower. As these windows show the original house of the 1630s was much larger, you can also see from the bricked-up doorway and the fireplaces that the end wall of the house today was previously an interior wall. A large part of the house was demolished in 1751 and the remainder rebuilt. What is now the front door was previously a 2-storey bay window, possibly one of a matching pair in the original house. Farm buildings were added in the late 18th and 19th century, and after a long series of modifications, these are now the kitchen and tea rooms. The internal layout of the house has also changed on several occasions. The tower on top of the motte is one of the castle's best known features, but also one of the most recent. Far from being a medieval stone tower, it is a folly or imitation of the late 18th century. It was constructed between 1780 and 1792 on the orders of Lord Vernon of Sudbury to make the castle's appearance more dramatic and romantic. A genuine round-top tower is recorded on top of the motte in the late Middle Ages, referred to as the donjon or gillet, 2 French words for large towers. The term gillet was later corrupted to Julius, leading to the mistaken traditions that the tower had been built by Julius Caesar. This tower was already badly ruined in the 16th century, and a remnant was still visible in the 18th century. Excavations in the 1950s uncovered part of the tower, which is now larger than the current folly. Thanks all for watching. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe for more content. Take care, enjoy your week ahead.